Unlimited, unlimited. I love it. I'm like obsessed. It's actually insane. If you did not think Wicked was powerful, like a very powerful movie, it wasn't meant for you. And that's okay. But this is for those who felt something, okay? If you felt something, this is the right video for you to watch, okay? I'm gonna give you 7 themes from Wicked that resonated with me and that I feel like showcased a range of emotion, a range of thought provoking insights. And, I just love movies. I'm an analyst, like I love analyzing movies. So if you're an analyst, welcome. And I hope you enjoyed this analysis of Wicked. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Book of Des. Hi everyone, I'm Desiree Jones, or the Book of Des. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Wicked Edition. Yes, Wicked, Wicked, Wicked. I saw it twice. I might go see it again, and I might go see it a 4th time. I'm obsessed. I'm literally obsessed with the movie. So again, if you were not obsessed with the movie, if you didn't feel anything with the movie, then that's okay. I mean, thank you for watching this video because there's so many themes that I feel like have come to, like, I've realized during this, after especially watching it the 2nd time, everything started to click, everything started to click. So I'm Desiree Jones. Welcome to the Book of Des, the YouTube channel for professional development, multimedia, lifestyle, and healthy living. So we're digging in more into the multimedia lifestyle. I'm a movies girly. Like, I love going to the movies. I love watching TV. So I was like, well, why don't we talk about Wicked? It's one of the biggest movies of the year, and I'm pretty sure it's going to have the biggest impact of the year, if not 4 times to come. And there's going to be a part 2. So I'm even more excited. So welcome to my channel, at the Book of Des. If you want to learn more about me, at the Book of Des. My Instagram is at the Book of Des. Everything at the Book of Des. So when I think of Wicked, I think of a certain lifestyle. Can you guess which lifestyle? Yes, it's giving Elphaba, because I love her. She is black. Elphaba is for the blacks. Elphaba is for the black women. Elphaba is for those who don't fit in, those who are seen but not heard. Those who are the best at what they do, yet shunned or used or abused or is taken for granted or taken advantage of. This is Elphaba, okay? So for me, for Wicked, I learned so much. I cried probably like 3-4 times in the movie. Anyone else cry? I was blown away. So if you watch Wicked, welcome. If you haven't watched Wicked yet, I'm going to give you 7 themes that resonated with the movie, okay? I'm going to give you 7 themes from Wicked that resonated with me and that I feel like showcased a range of emotion, a range of thought-provoking insights. And I just love movies. I'm an analyst, like I love analyzing movies. So if you're an analyst, welcome. And I hope you enjoyed this analysis of Wicked, because I'm gonna have a field day, and I just hope that whichever theme you like, let me know which is your favorite in the comments, and we can dive more into it because there's so many pathways and avenues. So let's get into the first theme that I took away from Wicked. The first theme is wickedness thrusted upon them. Why is that a theme? Well, let's look at the quote that I wrote down when I was watching the movie. So the quote is, this is what Oz said, like the powerful Wizard of Oz. This is what he said to Glinda and Elphaba while, like, during the Oz, when pretty much they figured out, like, when Elphaba figured out that he has no power, the wizard said this, and I quote, "The best way to bring people together is to have an enemy. The best way to bring people together is to have an enemy." So that label of wickedness was thrusted upon her. Now, it's pretty much a reminder, like, of how society will literally project their insecurities, project their assumptions on someone who is talented and honestly was really just proving herself throughout the entire movie. She was trying to be good. She was sticking up for the animals. She was sticking up for Glenda. She was sticking up for her sister. Like the entire time all she was doing was trying to prove how she actually was good. Like even when no one mourns the wicked, right? Like but technically was she wicked or was that thrusted upon her? Honestly, it was thrusted upon her. And that's really unfortunate because in society, there are times when things are thrusted upon someone, including wickedness or evil. And they have to. And it's unfortunate because Elphaba deserves so much better, but because she was different, she was the wicked one. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is, although society and people might project certain things on you, that doesn't make it true. And Elphaba, by the end of the movie, was like, I'm sick of this. She's like, I'm defying gravity, and nobody here has powers except for me. So be that as it may, I'm about to go fly away and do my own thing. Unlimited. Like she was unlimited. Like she was literally unlimited, and it was beautiful to watch. Speaking of unlimited and trying to get away, the next theme that we have is escape and regret. So escape is another recurring theme. Think about Elphaba trying to escape, the monkeys, and like Glenda asks her at the end of the movie when like they're trying to attack her and like they're saying seize her, seize her. Elphaba, like where are you going? Where are you going? Glenda asks, where are you going? Elphaba says, I'm going up. I'm going up. Like I'm literally trying to escape. I'm trying to go up. I'm trying to get out. Like even in the beginning when everyone's coming in to shiz, like Elphaba, she escapes from from her father and her sister to go see what was going on, right? She was always trying to find paths to escape, like escape who she was, escape her identity, just try to fit in. That was her goal, was try to fit in. Like even when something wasn't going right, like when the professor, the goats, I forgot his name, but when the goat professor was taken away, she had to do what it took to escape and help the cub, the lion, escape, right? And she found somebody who also felt like it was important to quote unquote escape. The prince. The prince actually helped with the escape. So the theme of escape was very rampant, and honestly, it was more so on Elphaba than it was Glenda. But when it comes to regret, right? Like in Elphaba's sense of regret, it seemed to me her regret, when she started to regret things, she would start to like kind of shift inwards and try to include herself or reconsider it of other people. Like when at the end of the of Wicked, and she's singing Unlimited, and she's like, Glenda, come with me. Like she doesn't want to leave. Like she wants to leave, but she's like, what if I add you with me? What if I regret seeing you again? Why don't you just come with me? So she had ample opportunity to continue to still reach out for others, because at the end of the day, she knew that she was ready to go, but she was willing to do it with someone else. But unfortunately, Glenda was like, no, I'm staying here. So because she decided to stay here, Elphaba had to escape alone. And then one thing that came as far as escape, and like she's also was trying to escape her past. So like her past and her green and her identity, like her going to Oz, that was also an escape. She was trying to escape to venture into a new identity, a new a version of herself. Like listening to The Wizard and I, like she was very much like, I want to escape and be accepted. So her vision of escape, even when she escaped to Oz, the regret of not being able to have Glenda with her. So she was like, you know what? It's the regret. Glenda, come with me to Oz, even though she did not need to go to Oz. And I can only imagine what would have happened if Elphaba was like, see you later, girl, and just kind of went without her. Like, would the circumstances be the same? We'll never know. But because of the regret, you know what? I want you to come with me. that was her regret. And so they end up both escaping. But we soon realize that Glinda, sure, she's willing to escape, but she can only go so far. And we saw that towards the end of the movie, and honestly throughout the movie. Like, she was willing to kind of take the leap, but she could never make it past the edge. Another thing that was important: protection versus control. Protection versus control. So think about Elphaba and her sister, right? Elphaba was always trying to make sure to protect her sister, Nessa, right? Nessa Rose. She wanted to make sure that Nessa was good. But Nessa was like, you know what? I don't want to be controlled. There was a fine line between protection and control. And it was really interesting trying to see the dynamic between how Elphaba was being protective versus how it might have been a perception of control, right? And think about Glinda. Like, Glinda, she was actually pretty controlling. And she made sure to control her own surroundings. So when things didn't go her way, she started to panic, right? So trying to set the mood, trying to get control of her space before Elphaba was there, trying to get control of the situation, trying to get control of the way Elphaba should be popular, right? She doesn't want to be too popular. Glinda didn't want Elphaba to be too popular. She just wanted it to be a certain amount of popular. That was control, right? And then when you also think about protection, Elphaba, like, she was trying to protect pretty much everyone around her, trying to protect Glinda, trying to protect Nessa, trying to protect Oz at a certain point, trying to protect her being. The only thing she wasn't really protecting, that she ended up trying to do on her own, was to protect herself. She defied gravity by protecting herself, which in fact created a response of society to try to control her. And it just didn't work. So because they couldn't control her, they deemed her as wicked. It's like Elphaba felt like she was being obligated to help out because of a circumstance that was really out of her control. And yet, protecting people always came at a cost. Elphaba protecting people always came at a cost. And usually that cost was to her. It was to her. And it just goes to show that it's a very heartbreaking ideal when your protection becomes some type of bondage, right? Your protection becomes a burden. Your protection becomes a burden. Like, that's the worst feeling, because that burden is something that was thrusted upon one. That was the control. That control of someone controlling Elphaba to force her to be protective. Like, that's a very, very heavy, heavy thing Elphaba had to deal with throughout the entire film. And again, that's why I love Defying Gravity, because that was her resistance. She was taking back her own control. She was protecting herself. Even think about at the end when she dives down, she plunges, she takes that leap, and she tries to defy gravity. But before she defies gravity, she falls. She falls. And what does she see? She sees her younger self. So not only does she see her younger self, she takes control of her past, so that way she can have an immaculate and amazing future, which was allowing her to defy gravity. Oh, iconic. Like, such a poetic movie. So yes, protection versus control. That was a major theme within a lot of the different characters. Theme number 4, right? The next theme, the common theme: good versus wicked. Good versus wicked. Good versus wicked. Because here's the thing. Everyone that was at Shiz, they were all trying to be good. It was interesting because they wanted Elphaba. Like, Elphaba was trying to prove herself to be good, which in reality she was good. And everyone around her was wicked. Glinda was wicked. Madame Morrible, who was actually horrible. Like, she was a horrible person. Now, she did help Elphaba kind of train her powers. But why? Why did she train her powers? Because those powers were meant to be what? Controlled in the long run, because she was trying to pretty much gaslight Elphaba into telling her, like, you need to be good, when in reality she was Madame Orville was being manipulative so she can get her way to find her pathway back to Oz, right? Like there were certain things that obviously Madame Orville she couldn't do. Only Elphaba could do. Even Elphaba doing the language. Like that was out of this world. But was it wicked or was it good? Because at the end of the day, Elphaba was only trying to prove herself to be good. And Glinda, she's always used to say, out of the goodness of my heart, out of the goodness of my heart. But her heart was pure evil. She was mean. She was rude. She was judgmental. Like that was wicked. Nobody except for Prince, you know, he kind of was standalone. He had his moments trying to fit in, but he was a rebel. And it's interesting how him being a rebel, him defying, quote unquote, defying the rules, that deemed him good. But imagine it, Elphaba, if it would have been Elphaba that was like, you know what, I don't need these rules, she would have been deemed what? Wicked. And that's exactly what happened. So identifying good versus wicked, it was a lot of parallels there between a lot of different characters. Even Nessa Rose. Like, yes, she was in a wheelchair, but she was never really grateful for her sister trying to take up for her. Even when the lady was trying to take her to her dorm rooms and like the lady was trying to control her and the lady was like, or Nessa Rose was like, I don't need to be controlled. I can do this myself. And literally, Elphaba was sticking up for her. And Nessa was still pissed, right? And think about this. Like, Glinda even giving Elphaba that black like hat. The black top, like the black hat. Like, it's really interesting because it's Glinda that had the black hat. It's Glinda that had the red shoes. Like, Glinda really set that girl up. Glinda set Elphaba up really badly. And even going into the dance, right? Like, when the moment Elphaba walked into the room, everybody started laughing, which was horrendous. And all she was doing was listening to Glinda because Glinda was trying to make her feel like she was worth something. When in reality, like, it was all a lie. And that came into play when they did their dance together. She felt so horrible. And that was some good. Some good came out of it, right? But it wasn't until things got wicked around Elphaba that Glinda was like, you know what? I feel awful. I feel wicked. I need to stand up for her and be there for her. So it was really interesting looking at the parallels between good and wicked because believe it or not, everybody was pretty wicked than they were good, if we're being honest. Everyone was more wicked than they were good. Thing number 6, again, proving yourself, right? Proving yourself. Now, of course, I've been talking about Elphaba trying to prove herself to literally everyone around her. But if you think about it, Glinda was also trying to prove herself to Madame Morrible, trying to prove herself to the crowd around her to make sure to showcase how good she is, right? She was trying to prove herself that she wanted to be, you know, like a wizard or you know, someone that wanted to have powers. She didn't have none of that. She didn't have none of that. And honestly, she was riding off of the coattails of Elphaba pretty much the entire time as the loathing of it all, right? Why was she loathing Elphaba so much? Because Elphaba had something that Glinda couldn't get. And it was only until everyone turned on Elphaba at the end. The moment Elphaba was able to kind of take her power back and prove to herself that she was defying gravity, that Glinda finally got the approval of Madame Morrible. But it was only because, like, Glinda was trying to prove herself to Madame Morrible. Like, if Madame Morrible, like, the entire time hated Glinda, but the moment Glinda or Madame Morrible was like, you need to go get her, that was Glinda's chance to prove herself, to showcase, you know what, I'm going to do what Madame Morrible says because I want to be a wizard. I want to be special. Like, that was selfish. That was selfish of her to even try to attempt to bring Elphaba down. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And she kept saying, I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy. Like, sometimes she said it was like a double entendre because she was saying, I hope you're happy. But did she mean it? Did Glinda actually mean, I hope you're happy? I don't think she did. So there was a lot of proving yourself. Even what's his name? The prince. Which really interesting. The prince, he really didn't have to prove himself. And it's just really interesting because if you think about a male versus a female, a lot of the men, they didn't have to prove themselves, right? The Oz didn't really have to prove himself. He just put on a facade. He didn't have to prove himself. He didn't have no powers. All he had was like a bunch of people around him just trying to get a little rah rah and showcase all the pizzazz. But he really didn't have to prove himself. The prince, that dude was dancing through life. I'm dancing through life. Nothing even matters until nothing really matters. Like the brainless foreshadowing, right? Because he's gonna be the scarecrow. Nothing really matters. But like Alphaba couldn't just dance through life. That's ironic because everybody's dancing in the shiz dance in the library. And what's Alphaba doing? She's studying. She's like, I can't afford to dance through life because if she danced through life, guess what? She gonna get made fun of. And that's the unfortunate part about that. So it's really interesting how some characters, especially women, had to prove themselves. Even Madame Morrible, she had to prove herself to us. She's like, I have this person that's going to help you, like, enhance what you need to do. Like, it was all the women that had to prove themselves, which is really, really odd. And all the men didn't have to do anything. Like, even the father. The father didn't even have to prove himself. He's the governor. Like, they're pretty much all in power. But all the women were trying to reach that power, you know? So it's a really interesting juxtaposition between the man and the women in the Wicked trying to prove themselves. Very interesting. There's a memorable moment when the professor says, and I quote, "If you work as you should, you'll be making good." It's such a like relatable struggle. Like if you work hard, if you do your thing, like you're going to be great. Everything's going to be perfect. But in reality, it didn't matter if Elphaba was like great or not great. It didn't matter. Like she was deemed to work hard, but also deemed to fail. And people saw that. Like they wanted her to succeed, but for their benefit. Ugh, sickening. But again, another instance of trying to prove yourself. Theme number 6. Emotions as power. Emotions as power. Now, what emotions did we see throughout Wicked? We saw anger. We saw rage. We saw sadness. We saw empathy. We saw joy. We saw happiness, right? But at the same time, like even in mourning, there was emotion that was brought out, right? One of the key lessons when it comes to this theme is how emotions can fuel power. And let's think about this quote that the GOAT said. The GOAT told Elphaba this, and I quote, "Once you learn to harness your emotions, the sky is the limit." That is something that the GOAT professor told Elphaba. And Professor Marble, like she said the same thing. Like when you harness your emotions, you will be unstoppable. When you harness your emotions, you'll be unstoppable. Why? Because even Madame Morrible, she like when Madame Morrible was trying to tell her to like elevate the coin, lift the coin up, Madame Morrible had to pretty much gaslight her and incite rage in Elphaba to create her powers, to enhance her power. But it's really cool because that same rage that allowed her to flip the coin is the same rage that she channeled at the end of Defying Gravity when she was like, "And you won't bring me down. No one can bring me down." Singing that out loud, even despite everyone's trying to tell her, "Killer, killer, killer." She blacked out the entire city. She's like, "Ain't nobody getting light. Nobody's getting light. I'm shutting the whole place down." Because if you want me to be the villain, guess what? I'm going to be the biggest, baddest villain there will ever be, and you won't bring me down. She don't even care. But what was that? That was her emotions. And she was able to use her emotions to fuel power. What's really interesting with Glinda, on the other hand, her emotions were like sadness or jealousy, right? She has some jealousy. She has some envy because Sis didn't have no powers. All she had was emotion. She didn't have no powers, which honestly made it even more interesting because everyone around her was trying to give her the energy of the persona or the perception like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. But she didn't have any power. It was because of Elphaba that Glinda was able to get a little bit of power. It was because of Elphaba. It wasn't because of anybody else. It was because of Elphaba. It was Elphaba that was like, you know what? Come with me to Oz. It was Elphaba that was like, hey, Madame Morrible, here's the wand that I want you to give to Glinda. Like, give Glinda the wand so you can help her. I want her to be in my class. Elphaba gave Glinda the power. And so when Glinda, like when Elphaba was like, I'm taking my power back, Glinda was like, no, 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 wait, because that's going to affect my power, right? That's going to affect my control. That's going to affect my approval. So when you think about power and emotion, Glinda didn't have no power. The only power she had was the power of people that were less minded than her. But Elphaba was smart. Elphaba had the power since birth, right? Elphaba was the power. And so that was a source. So the fact that Elphaba was even in her aura resonated with power. And that goes to show with anyone who has power today. Sometimes power can get to people's head. Think about even with Oz. Oz had the perception of having power, right? But no one ever really saw his emotions. You only saw his emotions when he saw Elphaba, who is pretty much his daughter. Yes, Elphaba is Oz's daughter. But then Elphaba said to Oz, you have no power. And so when Elphaba recognizes that he has no power, guess what? He gets emotional. He gets enraged. He's like, oh, we need to shut her down. So when you see people that have power, their emotions counteract that with an action. So when Elphaba had her emotions enraged, her power expanded, right? And when Elphaba called out the people who she knew had no power, that meant that their emotions became enraged. So the parallel between people who had power versus people who had just only emotion. Like there was a parallel between people who were perceived to have power versus people who actually had power. And the people who actually had power used their rage for good. Crazy. And the people who didn't have power but allegedly had a perception of power, their thought or the world society thought they were good, when in actuality they were wicked. The last theme is the power of division. The power of division. How division is used, how division is being seen. There's been a lot of division. Of course, you got the good and the bad division. How Oz, the Wizard of Oz, uses division to manipulate and to make sure that there's power, that he has all the power, right? Again, same quote, the best way to bring people together is to have an enemy. And another quote that was used that create division to a certain extent is the way that Oz, he admits to Elphaba, like, we need you. Like, we need you because you are the essence that pretty much brings me power. It's because of Elphaba that there is power that comes from Oz. So when Elphaba chooses to go her own path, that also creates a division, but it's a division that really weighs heavier more on Oz because the power is lost. There's also a girl on TikTok made a really, really cool TikTok about the division when it comes to patterns, right? So like the patterns on the clothing at Shiz, the school. So a lot of the students have just straight patterns, straight lines. And so she compares Glinda's outfit, the division, straight lines, but then she compares it to Elphaba's, and her lines on her outfit are not aligned. They're trying to align, but they're not all completely aligned. And then they talk about how Prince, like he barely has any stripes. Like he doesn't align with anything, which kind of creates that connection between him and Elphaba. So that also creates a division. The division between animals, the love of animals, and the disrespect of and how animals should be treated, right? Like when the professor Goat, like he was a teacher, right? But then all of a sudden his demeanor shifts because the sign that they put on his whiteboard or his chalkboard was like animals shouldn't teach. That created a division. The division between Glinda. Glinda, because notice how she separated herself by wearing pink, her demeanor. So like she creates a division between her and her power, her essence compared to everyone else. Same with Elphaba. Her style, her demeanor is different from everyone else. And that creates a division. That creates a little bit of difference, lots of friction, right? Division is common because there always has to be something versus something else, good versus bad, going up versus down, right? The division between who goes up and who stays down, the division between who is at the top or who is the most powerful versus who are superior, or like who are like at the bottom of the food chain, or like, you know, like the munchkins, right? Like people who don't even know what's going on. They just like, we don't like you because Oz says we don't like you, right? That creates division, but that comes down to manipulation. And then you can also think about the division between like separation between confidence and lack of confidence, because of course Elphaba, like, she is confident, and you can start to see even more division, and she kind of enjoys the division to a certain extent because she is aware of how she looks and how she operates in society. So because of that, she mentally trains herself to be like, all right, let me just explain myself. Like at the beginning, okay, no, like, yet no, like I was born this way. Like, no, I didn't eat a lot of vegetables growing up, you know, like, so creating that division already, so that way she decides to separate herself initially because she already knows that she's, you know, different. Which is also really interesting how Elphaba separates herself from the pack because she does have these powers. So seeing the division between her, Elphaba, and Glinda, and how Elphaba is treated because of her success, because of how powerful she is, compared to how compared to how Madame Morble, like, she's like, Glorinda, you're trash. Why are you here? You're not talented. Like, that creates a division, right? But it's interesting because some divisions become aligned in certain aspects when other people decide to go another path. So again, when you know, there was a divide between who's going to Oz and who wasn't. And then of course Elphaba is like, Glinda, come with me. We're both going to go. So that creates a unity, right? But then they go to Oz and then it creates a divide because why? Well, there has to be a side that's chosen. There has to be a side where, you know, you're standing up for yourself as Elphaba does and goes another path, or you follow Oz and you kind of look up to Oz and you like say, you know, just listen to him. He knows the way, which is what Glinda did. And that created a division, but it also created a alignment, unfortunately, with Glinda and Professor Morble. Like, it's really interesting because some divisions also create parallels and create unity. But is the unity good or is the unity wicked? So these are the 7 themes that I took away from Wicked. Let me know which theme stood out to you the most. I hope these were a little bit more original. I know there's like common ones that people are doing, but like, this is my interpretation, my analysis of Wicked. I am so excited for, I'm already excited for the next movie, but I'm so happy to just be a part of this type of historical event, you know, like seeing Wicked, seeing Ariana Grande, seeing Cynthia, like, oh my gosh, like, what an amazing cast this was. What a moment in time, you know, like, life definitely be lifing, but I'm a moviegoer and this has probably been one of the best movies that I've seen this year. And I just look forward to continuing to do more movie analysis in the future. Like, this was fantastic. So again, I'm Desiree Jones at the Book of Des. If you like this, let me know what part you like the most. Don't forget to subscribe. We're going to do more videos soon. And happy networking, happy Wicked. Enjoy the holidays. I hope everything is going well for you, and, you know, just continue to shine bright and be true to who you are. But again, I'm Desiree Jones. Thank you for visiting my channel, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.